I'm Aryeh Schwartz alongside Rachel Galligan, and welcome to the Winsidr Show, where it's all about the W. With more than a handful of games for each team into the season, we finally are getting a grasp on who these teams truly are. For teams doing what they do to teams surprising us, let's dive into this episode and discuss who are the hot and the cold starting teams this season. If you like our show, please consider joining our Patreon community, patreon.com/Winsidr. That's patreon.com/Winsidr. For less than a cup of coffee a month, you can directly show support for the hard work we do covering the W and get exclusive access to some amazing content. And don't forget to see our amazing written staff's content over at winsidr.com. That's winsidr.com. In preparation for this season, we've expanded our content on a variety of social media platforms. Make sure you're following Winsidr on TikTok, Instagram, Blue Sky, Twitter, and YouTube. Welcome back to the show. Excited to be back with Rachel. Rachel, you're back from vacation. The W season is in full swing. We've had some teams really impressive, some teams really not impressive. Do you want to start with the negative or the positive?
I'm going to be positive because I'm coming back from vacation and I feel better now. Let's start with the Phoenix Mercury. Obviously, we could talk about the Liberty. I'm sure we will. We could talk about Minnesota Lynx. Those are the two top dogs right now, 7-0, undefeated in the league. I think this week the Mercury really impressed me. This is a team that is finding ways to win without two of their three players. I mean, they literally went and got three players in free agency and threw all their money at them and then found ways to put excellent, experienced role players around them. Not WNBA experienced, pro experienced. Operating in the margins from a salary cap perspective, they've done such a good job. Now you're down Kalia Copper, you're down Alyssa Thomas for the past two games. I mean, it's unbelievable what this team has been able to do. And I've been so impressed with the supporting cast of the Mercury and what they've been able to do and how efficient they've been. You just look at some of the numbers. Laxa averaging close to 9 points per game. Makani averaging just right around 10. Catherine Westbelt, 8 points per game. Kalani Brown, 7. Sammy Whitcomb, 7. I mean, and they've been efficient. They've been efficient from the three-point line. Makani averaging 47% from the three-point line. Westbelt, 42. Laxa, 42. I mean, we talked about it at nauseum in the offseason about this being an opportunistic Phoenix Mercury era. I almost questioned if it was even possible, like if there was enough talent out there to kind of help this three-headed monster of Copper, AT, and Sabali to have success. And I'm eating my words with it right now. I mean, this has been a really impressive unit, backing those three, stepping into those roles when they've been hurt and injured. And that's what you love to see. That's what I was most, out of anything else this season, that's what I was most excited to watch out of the WNBA this season, was the opportunity that we were going to see on some of these rosters. We talked about it with the Mystics, we talk about it with Connecticut Sun, and we knew that it was also going to be the Phoenix Mercury on a grand scale. I'm talking about like major opportunity. And I don't know, I've just been impressed with this team. I've been impressed with how these players have seized this opportunity.
Yeah, it's been really, really impressive. We talk about this Mercury team with a lot of question marks coming into the season, and rightfully so, in my opinion. The biggest impressive thing for me is not, the quotes that are coming out of they struggled in the first half shooting 5 of 20 from 3 or whatever it was versus LA, and they just dug deep. And we know this team's going to shoot the 3 ball. There's going to be hot streaks. There's going to be cold streaks, dips, valleys, all those things. It's been the defense. Being a top 5 team in blocks, being a top 5 team in steals, a top 5 team in opponents scoring. Those are the things.
They're second.
Yeah. Those are the things that are most impressive for me from this roster. Everybody's buying in. Everyone's taking, to quote the great Rachel Galligan about this season, is opportunity. Everyone is taking advantage of their opportunities on this roster. You have young players, you have slightly older players, and the versatility of this roster, right? They have the likes of Kalani Brown. So when we saw them take on Minnesota a few nights ago, by the time this goes live, They've played Minnesota twice. I think that is going to be a really interesting kind of barometer for this team. You lost what ended up being a pretty close one at times. You end up going back. We'll see what happens, but they dominated the paint in that game. And the reason they were able to do that is because the size of Kalani Brown, because you have these 3-point shooters, and because you're facing a team that doesn't necessarily have the likes of Maisha Hines-Allen anymore, or someone that was trusted like Adorka Juhas to play in the paint. They're doing a variety of things. Obviously, in that game, they also were missing Fee. That's a Defensive Player of the Year anchor defensively. But the versatility of this Mercury team, when they're going up against one opponent, to lean more heavily on that 3-point shot. When they're going up against a team that they see a weakness as the paint, they can attack it with a Kalani Brown, or when Alyssa Thomas is back, and Alyssa Thomas, when Akalia Copper is back, Akalia Copper. So this roster now has built a very solid base of the thing that we were probably most worried about, the depth. And now moving forward, you're adding in Alyssa Thomas, a player who only adds to what they're doing. You're hopefully soon adding in a Akalia Copper who only adds to what they're doing. Now, obviously, there's going to be some growing pains. We have to expect that, right? But we have to say what it is, Rachel. This team is an early contender. Like, if the season ends today, they're a team that we're looking at. We're, like, obviously, this is very early. We're not saying,
they're right now a top. I mean, they're third in the standings. They're a top 3 team.
They're a top 3 team. Who have they lost to? They lost to Seattle, who's a top 4 team, top 5 team. And they lost to Minnesota, who's a top 2 team.
Yes.
So,
and I don't know that I could have predicted that. I really don't.
No.
But again,
and I will. Well, we're not jumping the gun on anything. I do want to say, like, if we just look at Phoenix Mercury games coming up, they have Minnesota tonight. Obviously, by the time you hear this, they'll have played. I'm actually like, I hate that we're doing this on the morning, whatever, because that's going to be such an interesting game. Then they play the Valkyrie. We know what to expect there, but, you know, do we start to see a hiccup? Because there is such thing as a start of the season hot streak. Teams get film on you. It's a new roster. It's a new style of play. And then they can adjust and they find weaknesses and are exploiting that. The Storm, that's going to be an interesting game. Over the next, 8 games for them, they have this nice little off-on of playing a top team, playing a lower end team, playing a top team, playing a lower end team. So it's going to be really interesting to see what we see from this team. But hey, you know, they're sitting high right now. They got to feel good about themselves. And honestly, arguably the most impressive thing is Satu Sabali is not putting up crazy numbers. She's not blowing you out of the water, mind blown at what she's doing. Scoring output or she's up there for steals and such per game. But it's just been so impressive that it's truly, like we've been talking about, probably too much at this point, but like we've been talking about the team effort that's doing it. Okay.
We've given a lot of love to the Mercury. We need to talk about the Atlanta Dream because they deserve a lot of love as well, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And we're talking about teams that are just letting the 3 ball fly, both averaging around 33-point attempts per game. The Atlanta Dream, listen, it's early, right behind the Mercury in the standings in 4th place, 5-2. They've won 4 games in a row. Beat the Seattle Storm most recently by 7 back on, I think it was last Friday. Beat the Los Angeles Sparks, beat the Connecticut Sun, beat the Dallas Wings. You might look at that and say, okay, outside of the Storm, that's a relatively easy well, we could have a conversation about the Sparks. We'll save that for another day. But I've been impressed with Atlanta. They're going to take on. They got a little bit of time right now, which is interesting to have such a big break. They'll take on the Connecticut Sun later on this week, but this is a team that's right now thriving under Carl Smesko's system. As I said, shooting around 31 3-point attempts per game. They're averaging 10 makes per game. I mean, listen, Alicia Gray. And Ryan Howard.
She's balling.
They're thriving in this system. Absolutely thriving. I mean, those two combined are averaging about 40 points per game. I mean, Gray in particular has been phenomenal. I don't know that she's just in another gear right now, shooting 44% from the 3-point line, really confident basketball. It almost feels like there's been a new side of her that's been unlocked that we haven't quite seen in this system. And obviously, those two players have the green light. Ryan Howard isn't shooting as well, about 27%, but obviously her versatility and ability to score in a number of ways is really impressive. And then I think we're starting to see kind of that tandem of Bree Jones and Griner, and how those two are operating together. Bree Jones averaging around 14 points per game, Griner 12. I mean, for instance, in the last game, they really had to make adjustments with Seattle at halftime and how they were going to play in the pace of that game. Griner comes out, plays a lot of minutes in that first half, ends up not playing a ton in the second half. And wasn't anything personal. It was just the best call for the team. And I think Bree Jones and her ability to defend and her presence on the court is vastly different than Griner's. And so I think this team, what I saw from that was you're starting to see just the different ways in which they're able to play, the versatility in which players can be shape-shifted and moved around. And that adjustment at halftime, was a credit to Carl Smesko and his staff. I think those adjustments are what won the game over Noel Quinn in the Seattle Storm. And it was just a really impressive win to go out there on the road from a franchise that we had a lot of question marks about, from a franchise that has felt like at times has been flailing for the last couple of years. It's just a team that I feel really good about. They seem really in sync with one another. They seem really connected with one another. Still a lot to learn, still a lot that I want to see from the Atlanta Dream. But right now, I mean, that's a team that's playing as well as anyone.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think for them, yeah, it's interesting. We definitely view every team in a different light. We have to view them based on who they are. BG had some early struggles, fouls out in back-to-back games against Indiana. So that's 2 foul outs out of their 5 games. Look, I think this team is finding a rhythm. This team has a lot of speed, has a lot of shooters, has a lot of offensive capability. Heck, Jordan Canada hasn't even played yet. So we're still looking at them adding in a key piece to this starting 5. I think there's still some growth, but what we saw from Smesko, which you brought up, was that second half adjustment. In a season where we're seeing, in my opinion, maybe this is a crazy take, but in a season where I think we're starting to see the tiers of coaches kind of become more clear and clear and clear as the season goes on, like every season, we're seeing that now. There's a lot of teams that I think if you put some of the top coaches in this league there, they would be looking very different early on in the season than we have seen so far. What I have seen from Smesko so far is really impressive, not just because of the actions he's calling, the style of play that they're doing, and the rotations they're doing, but the selflessness of the roster. Or I'm saying this from outside. I don't know if the players are pissed off when they get benched for the second half. No, I shouldn't say bench, but don't play as many minutes or whatever it is. You have a lot of stars on this team. You have national champions. You have WNBA champions. You have Olympic gold medalists, right? There's a lot of personalities on this roster. And going into it, that was an aspect that I had questions about. How is Smesko going to handle
manage
the
that
attention? Yeah, and he's done an excellent job of doing that. Obviously, it's easier when your team's winning 5-2. Excuse me, they played 7 games. I don't know why I said 5 earlier. But yeah, so I think it's really interesting. They have a roster that can be a competitor. I think there's a slightly higher expectation in my book from this roster than just compare it to a Phoenix roster because of just the meat and potatoes of that starting 5 is so much more grown and has achievements than I would say than the whole amount of the Phoenix Mercury starting 5. I feel like this isn't making sense, but that's just how I feel. So my expectations for Atlanta is the low is higher than Phoenix. The high is arguably just as high as Phoenix, but Phoenix's low is much lower. So that's kind of, I have high expectations for a roster that has a number 1 pick, has Alicia Gray, has Brittany Griner, has Bree Jones. These are and it's not like the coaching staff is a young, inexperienced coaching staff either. So this Atlanta team is look, preseason, maybe we were saying drinking too much of the Kool-Aid. I'm not here to say this year they're a contender, but I am saying the makeup of this roster, if you get some continuity moving forward with this system and this roster, we're definitely talking about a contender in a year.
Okay. Obviously, we can talk about New York. They look amazing. They look phenomenal. They're shooting the ball exceptionally well. Leonie Fibic has been phenomenal. I
Ridiculous.
love that team. Again, it's early. I think that we've got a big stretch here for the next couple of weeks where they're really going to start being tested. Really looking forward to that. Minnesota Lynx, Nafisa Collier, right in the top of the conversation, way too early MVP. Her and Asia Wilson, I think it's a 2-horse race as of now. The Lynx looking pretty solid. It's good to see Fee back in the equation. They're not defending at the rate that I think Cheryl Reeve would expected them to be defending from what we saw last year. So that's just something I'm paying attention to. Those are the clear top 2 dominant factors in the team or in the league right now. Liberty coming off that ridiculous win over the Connecticut Sun. That's just me giving them a little bit of love. In terms of what's the topic of the show? Hot and the cold? The hot and the
Hot and the cold. Yeah.
It's
whatever we want. It's our show.
Who are the cold for you? Outside of the Dallas Wings.
Dallas, LA, Connecticut, Chicago. Like here, let me just run down
Connecticut because it's just expected.
I mean, they're like Minnesota in the winter cold.
I mean, they're like Liberty up in Westchester cold.
Oh, that is a great reference.
It's just like everyone just like cheering for them, you know? Like, come on, guys.
They're Indiana Fever after Tamika Catchings left cold. They are. We could go on for a while here. They're the Phoenix Mercury from a few years ago. Okay. Let me just break it down for a little bit. New York and Minnesota obviously starting off hot. I would say New York scorching hot. They look like the flame coming out of the Liberty torch. Minnesota looks good, but I don't think anybody in Minnesota, outside Minnesota, is sitting there saying they look clearly like that team that we saw last year and that team that ran all the way to 5 seconds left in the finals.
Which is fine. You don't want to be peaking right now.
Exactly. It's a good thing for them. And they added new players that need to meld. Phoenix and Atlanta, 2 teams maybe exceeding expectations, hot in that sense. Vegas, I would say kind of like you're starting a bonfire. There's some like the fire goes off, but then it simmers down. Similar with Seattle. Teams that have had sparks of that big greatness that we maybe have expectations or want expectations for, but not consistent in any way, shape, or form. Then you have Washington, really impressive considering where our bar was for them. Indiana, I think we can say disappointing. Obviously, there's the caveat that Caitlin Clark's been hurt, but this team, I need to say my piece on this real quick.
Go ahead, you go, and then I'll say mine because I got some stuff to say too.
They added a roster, and I think they did an excellent job. I have my issues with the fact that they have a business operations person as their GM. We'll get into that later. I think great business person, not a great GM. But the Indiana Fever added an amazing roster this offseason to be able to withstand slight injuries, a week here, a week there, 2 weeks here of their key players, specifically Caitlin Clark. And what we are seeing is they cannot. This roster looks lost. Stephanie White is being exposed in some ways. I'm not here to hate on Stephanie White, but I will say there's a legitimate concern and question to be brought up when you look at her coaching record. Just saying. And this roster has not lived up to the expectations of why you built them. Now, you add Caitlin Clark back into it, and everyone's healthy. And now, they're 2 points away and almost won that game against New York, and it's a totally different story. But at the end of the day, the deep reality of the concern is without Caitlin Clark, these vets are not stepping up in a way that shows me this team has the ability to make a deep playoff run. And I know it's early on, but that's just my take.
Well, it's just interesting to me. This is a team that's top 4 in the league in fast break points. And then Caitlin Clark goes down and they literally had laid a big old egg in fast break points. I mean, they just, not only do they don't look just bad, they just look lost. Mm-hmm. And you need more out of the veterans on this team. This is not a team that is going to, Caitlin Clark is not going to win this team a championship. I'm going to say that and people are going to want to fight me. You know what I'm saying? Others have to do their part. You know what I'm saying? She's in her second year in the WNBA and you've got some veterans on this team. And I'm looking at Kelsey Mitchell in particular, who is off to a relatively rough start. And I think she's been openly and candid about kind of just the numbers and the percentages this year. Like she's trying to get herself back into it. But you bring if you got Kelsey Mitchell operating and clicking on all cylinders, they probably don't lose a couple of those games, even with Clark out. And so Mitchell hasn't quite found her stride yet and her confidence in this season. I think DeWanna Bonner is very, very much clearly trying to understand what is her role and where is she supposed to come in. Not trying to come in and be the second leading scorer. I think she's at times been a little bit too passive. But when someone like a Clark goes down, you need a Bonner to be way more aggressive offensively and knock down shots. You need Kelsey Mitchell to knock down shots and be able to get out and run in the break and run in the open floor. It's almost like when she went out and even before then, it's not like they were like a top 2 team. I mean, yeah, they took Liberty. It was a close game, but like everybody went into this season just assuming the Fever were going to win a championship. Like there's levels to this, everybody. There are levels to this. They just made the playoffs for the first time in what feels like a decade last year. So like all the like numbers, how many Fever are going to win 35 games this year? That's not reality. I've never believed that from the start. Like I do think this team is going to hit peaks and valleys. We saw it last year. The Fever started out the regular season and everybody was up freaking out and everybody wanted to fire Christy Sides. And then they went through the All-Star break. They started to gel. You saw Kelsey Mitchell and Clark start to gel. Like, again, it's very, very early. I do think we've seen the potential of this team when they did play New York as close as they did early on. But man, right now, I think they're looking for answers, looking for a lot of answers. And again, it can't all just be Caitlin Clark. That's not how basketball works. They're going to need everybody else to step up and play their peak basketball as well. And I just don't think we've seen that out of this team yet.
Totally. I'm with you. And I got some takes about the whole Caitlin Clark going to bring them a championship. Anyways, we'll talk about that in a different episode.
She will bring them a championship. I do believe that. I do.
I fully think she will bring a team a championship, but I think the key aspect is going to be the team part. And this isn't me. F it, I'll say it. Like you look at her career, she's done amazing things to lift rosters that weren't as good as other rosters to championship levels. I'm sorry, I'm not counting a Big Ten championship. They haven't won a championship. She hasn't won a championship since high school or whatever. And so, I'm not saying that as a knock to her. What I'm saying is like at a certain point, a single player can't score all the points. You need other players to step up to do enough. When you look at every champion in the WNBA, it's not just one player dropped 85 points and that's why they won. Well, so other people need to step up.
But also, exactly, and that's the point. I mean, Clark goes down and you can just see how much this vastly impacts this team. And how like her the ball in her hands and the way she dictates the pace and the momentum and the tempo and the passing, the facilitating and the shot generating, like without that, they're lost. And honestly, I mean, I probably shouldn't be surprised by that because she is the focal point of this team. She is the engine that makes this team go, the heartbeat of that team in terms of being that facilitator. But again, there's just too many veterans on this team to not be able to operate, as you said in the beginning, the depth on this bench, the players on this bench. I mean, if the Phoenix Mercury can do it with the way they're doing it right now, the Indiana Fever should be able to
find ways. If the Connecticut Sun for like the past how many years had one of their star players, if not their key player, go down with an injury, people step up. Nobody is stepping up for the Indiana Fever. Okay, other teams with cold starts. And real quick, I'm going to say lukewarm to hot start, Golden State Valkyrie. First of all, if you're telling me that in the first 6 games of their franchise history, they're sitting not in last place, that's a win. They're not in second to last place, that's a win. They are legitimately competing. The home court advantage that they have is absurd. I don't know who else was watching that Lynx Valkyrie game. Oh my God. They're down 15, 16 points in the fourth. The crowd is reacting like they just hit a game-winning shot with time expiring in the playoffs. It was insane. And I'm not saying that to knock it. Like, I love it. That is officially top of my list of where I want to go see a game now. No questions at all. I need to go there and see a game. So definitely a 2-4 start. All these other teams we're talking about cold starts have 2-4 or worse. but I'm not counting that as a cold start for the Golden State Valkyrie.
I mean, and like a tough start to their schedule. I mean, played New York twice last week.
Oh, yeah.
Minnesota Lynx. I mean, the win over the LA Sparks was impressive. Washington Mystics, and that being a team that is so competitive, we know they're going to be competitive. But I think that's how Golden State was designed. The makeup of this team is again, it's laying the foundation of pros, laying the foundation. And I'm talking about professional and how you compete and how you conduct yourself and how you handle yourself, characters, people who are just going to take pride in competing day in and day out in practice. And so, like, I kind of looked at this Valkyrie roster and thought, this is going to be a fun team to watch because they're going to compete. It's the same thing with Washington, except Washington just isn't a brand new starting franchise. They just imploded and basically are starting over from a roster standpoint, kind of in some ways. But I mean, love watching Golden State, love the home court advantage. The whole environment there has been incredibly impressive. I think they've got a big week ahead, taking on Phoenix, Las Vegas. They got a little ABC action on that for Golden State. Good for them. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think lukewarm. You can't really knock them. The bar is not that high. It shouldn't be that high for a expansion team in year one. But yeah, I've been impressed with them as well.
Now the teams that are just straight up cold: Chicago, LA, Dallas, and Connecticut. Connecticut, we talked about. Dallas, their roster is too good to be 1-6. I'm sorry. Their roster is too good to be 1-6. I can go on and on about my feelings of the Dallas Wings and the style of play. And look, we have seen it so far in this young season. And I'm not putting it all on Aryeh, but we've seen it so far in this young season. What has been the perpetual, constant issue for the Dallas Wings throughout the last 8 seasons, 6 seasons, however many Aryeh has been around. And again, not a knock to Aryeh, but someone has to hold her accountable. At some point, we understand Greg Bibb was part of the issue. He's moved over, supposedly. They have a new coach. They have a new GM. We've seen how many coaches, like 8 coaches or 6 coaches or something crazy in Aryeh's young career, but we haven't seen this team change what they're doing. Aryeh has great games where she's putting up crazy numbers, but then those last 2 minutes, faulty, bad looks, cost the team the game. The problem with this team is when they start relying on Aryeh too much, they fall back into that stance where we've seen it doesn't work. You can't just give one player the ball and expect her to score so many points that the team's going to win. You have a deep roster. It's not the best roster in the league, but it's a deep roster of vets, of people who are young, trying to prove themselves. This team needs to be better. And then I'll let you say something about Dallas, and then I'll say something about Chicago and Sparks.
I mean, Dallas, I don't know. There's looking for answers, just searching for a lot of answers. In my opinion, there's no reason to lose to Chicago back to back. I just don't. I think that's just, it's not good. I have concerns. I'm going to hold a lot of those concerns for a minute here as we just kind of give it a few more weeks into the season. But this team it looks kind of disjointed. And again, like, they're just very much searching for answers. They're not guarding anybody either. I mean, they're literally,
the defense is atrocious.
I mean, Dallas and Chicago are like 2 of the worst defensive teams in the league in terms of just points allowed. I mean, Dallas has given up 89, Chicago's given up 92. There's got to be a lot. I just think with Dallas in particular, like, there's too much talent. There's too much experience on that roster to be such a poor defensive team.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. But it's all about togetherness. But, Chicago Sky and the LA Sparks. The reason I'm grouping them together, sitting at 2-4 and 2-6, these are 2 teams that traded the 2nd and 3rd pick away in this draft. And this needs to be discussed. We don't need to do a whole thing on it. We try and keep our episodes under 30 minutes. We're really itching towards that. But for both of these teams to trade away those picks in a CBA year for players on 1-year contracts, you gave up Citrone or Kiki. You gave up Malanga or Citrone or Kiki. You gave up legit future players who are going to be cornerstones of teams, positions that your roster needs. Obviously, you could argue with Malanga, they don't necessarily need it in LA, fine, but why wouldn't you have Cam Brink, Rakia, and Malanga, and Hamby? Why not? But yeah, just a lot of questionable moves. I'm questioning the hierarchy of this roster build by LA. I'm questioning the hierarchy of this roster build in Chicago and the roster movements that all entail building up free agency, the draft, who they're playing, everything. Like those two franchises are in squalor right now.
Yeah, and again, we're 2 weeks in, and I'm gonna just hold my tongue and not be, coming too hot. But yeah, I mean, it's not pretty. It's not pretty, and I think I've been pretty vocal about the Chicago Sky and their win now mentality and getting rid of that pick. Um, I think it's a massive mistake, and we're going to continue to see this franchise flail for the time being, especially after this year. I mean, it's going to implode again, and they're going to be back at square one with very little consistency outside of Asia Sivka and Haley Van Lith. I don't know. I don't know. I just like what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Like Ariel Atkins, are we going to do enough to get her to want to sign back there? What are you doing in this year to get people to want to be in Chicago? Because like right now, like this team, I don't know, guys. It's not looking good. And again, I get really worked up over that specific trade in particular. But you did bring up a good point with LA. I mean, damn. I've actually been a decent proponent of the Kelsey Plum acquisition. I mean, gosh, they needed a point guard, they needed a guard, they needed better. I mean, like, okay, I can kind of get behind that. I can understand that. I think my more glaring concerns are kind of similar to like the Fever. You've got some veterans on this team that need to be giving you more. They need to be doing more than what they're giving you. And so I mean, it can't just be the Kelsey Plum, Dearica Hamby show. And obviously there's a ton of questions about this, the connectivity of between the team and the front office, like what's going on with Rukia Jackson. I mean, this is an interesting time to be determined kind of how the next week or two plays out. A lot we're going to be talking about, I'm sure, a week from now. But yeah, both franchises very much searching for answers right now.
Love it. Well, I want to remind everybody, check us out wherever you catch your podcasts. Obviously, you're listening to us, but tell your friends. Check out Winsidr.com. Check out Winsidr on all the social media platforms. Definitely on YouTube, if you could give us some boosts, because we would love to expand our YouTube coverage, and we follow where your eyes go. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back next week.